Before I start, I want to tell you a joke. What do Daredevil and Scarlet Witch have in common? They both lost their vision. Deadpool 2, directed by David Leitch, starring Ryan Reynolds, Josh Brolin, and Zazie Beetz. As this is another David Leitch film, obviously the action is immaculate. He has got to be one of the most inventive action directors ever. I mean, I'm not a huge action fan, so I don't know. And honestly, most of the time, action is so boring that I kind of just zone out during it. But he is so creative with everything he uses. I'm not entirely sure what blocking means, but I think that he does better blocking than Steven Spielberg in Ready Player One, which is something I heard a lot when I was looking up the reviews for that. They kept mentioning how he's a master of blocking, but this is really fucking good. And they kept the same writers from the first Deadpool, whose names I can't remember. One of them's called Paul. So I never had any kind of worry that this wasn't going to be funny enough. But this does suffer from the same problem that the first Deadpool does, in that in the beginning of the movie, they want you to take it seriously for a bit. And when I have to take Deadpool seriously, that becomes agony. I'm not a normal person. I don't relate to the same things that normal people relate to. I would hope that a Deadpool movie is like the one thing that you don't need to ground in reality. You know, you can have just random non sequiturs, and I would be perfectly fine with that. I just don't think most people would be perfectly fine with that. But I would. And that's what I think people need to start doing, is making movies with me in mind. Because, 10 minutes into the movie, they kill off Morena Baccarin, whatever her fucking name is in this. Because, while I like Morena Baccarin, I've seen Firefly, I know who she is, and I liked her in the first one. It's just, I thought that the whole love story angle in the first one was not distracting, but it was, not necessary at all. You know, I just want funny action. I don't need 5 minutes of pathos about them having a kid just for her to inevitably get killed, because that's what fucking happens. And honestly, a while back, I heard Ryan Reynolds wanted to explore Deadpool's pansexuality, which you can't do when he's, madly in love with this woman. So obviously she was going to die. That's just exactly the kind of thing that Deadpool should be able to do, some sort of meta, tongue-in-cheek way of getting around. But honestly, that might just be too clever for anybody. And obviously Ryan Reynolds was fantastic. His charm is what Deadpool is. Not surprised at all by that. Now, Josh Brolin, coming in as Cable, was fantastic. He plays the straight man, or in Japanese, the Tsukomi, which in Japan, I don't really see the point of a Tsukomi, because they're kind of pointless. They're basically telling an audience when to laugh, but this illustrates why it's sometimes necessary to have a foil, to have this completely out, insane guy, and then someone whose job is just to react like a normal person. And I'm not entirely sure what the difference between Cable and, a Japanese guy going, "Nani kore?" I don't know what the difference is, but I know one of them is fantastic, and the other one is just, I don't see the point. And I definitely think that they saw Zazie Beetz and Julian Dennison in Atlanta and Hunt for Wilder People, respectively, and just basically said, we want that exact same thing. Which is good, because Zazie Beetz is awesome on Atlanta. She plays Vanessa very well, but exactly the same way she played Domino. And Julian Dennison played Ricky Baker as a delusional thug kid that, we all grew up with. But honestly, I'm totally fine with them doing that, because I don't think Hunt for Wilder People or Atlanta is seen enough. People I know in real life haven't seen either one. I have one friend who I make sure has seen as much of the things as he can, but for people whose lives I'm not directly involved in, they ain't seen it. So this gives those performances a much wider screen. It's like why I don't mind when Archer reuses jokes from Frisky Dingo, because, nobody watched Frisky Dingo except me. So if they're going to reuse stuff, go for it. And I've heard that Zazie Beetz could also be pronounced Zazie Beetz. I prefer Zazie Beetz because in Trigun, one of the gung-ho guns was called Zazie the Beast. So it's just a mnemonic device, basically. And for Julian Dennison, I was really glad that they let him keep his New Zealand accent. Peter Jackson put New Zealand on the map, but Taika Waititi is bringing it into everyone's house. And I couldn't be more ecstatic for that. I love the accent. And Fire Fist is the world's first Maori superhero, so that's something. Personally, I think this was a lot of fun. but I'm more looking forward to a full-on X-Force movie now that they've taken the time to actually assemble the team. Because they didn't even like start talking about X-Force until halfway through the movie, and then obviously they were all hilariously killed off, which, you know, was great because of the way the trailers played them up. It's definitely a very unique thing to do there. Honestly, it kind of reminded me of Mystery Men because they had the whole interview thing, like even with the Vanisher being like Kel Mitchell's Invisible Boy. I was getting a lot of Mystery Men vibes from that. Now, it's not a movie I've thought about in a while, so that's good. And I like that Negasonic Teenage Warhead got a girlfriend, Yukio, because if there's one thing comics are always missing, it's Yuri. And finally, the movies are catching up to that, even though, when I was reading the comics at least, it was pretty few and far between. That said, they were cute, but they didn't really do anything, so that's why I'm really looking forward to an X-Force movie. So that's about all I got time for. I highly suggest this movie. Please, go out and see it. Just don't give them too much money because I don't want them to be better than Infinity War. I have a horse in that race. I don't know why, but I do.